I have a lot of books to show you. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Now for today's video, I'm doing a massive book haul. Now I don't know what to label this book haul because I've done my August book haul and I labeled it August book haul part 1, but I never really continued off of it and I just got lazy and I just started not doing book hauls anymore. But now that I have all these books in the corner of my room, which is known as the Tower of Shame or the Towers of Shame for those who have not been watching my videos and who are new to my channel, this is usually where I sit to film my book hauls because this is where I usually put all the new books that I bought that I need to show you guys who are watching this video. Now I have a lot of books to show you. Most of these books were bought throughout the span of the summer and now into the early months of fall. So obviously this is not a monthly book haul. Most of these books I did by myself, and I do have a handful of books that were sent to me from publishers that I'm really excited to talk about and to show you. To be honest, I also wanted to split my book haul into parts of where I bought the books, so whether it be thrift books or eBay books or just used books in general. But now that they're just like right next to me, I thought I'll just group them all together. So some of these books are new, some of them are old. So the first series that I wanted to show off to you guys that I got is actually books I purchased from Thrift Books. So Thrift Books is like a online bookstore where you can order thrifted books, so like they're old used copies, and then afterwards you just pay for it and then you get it in the mail, but it's just a little bit more expensive for Canadian readers because you have to pay for shipping and the prices are in USD. But anyways, this series that I wanted to show you is actually a series from Linda Jones, and these are fairy tale retelling series. I think they are historical romance, not like Regency period, but at least like in the back in like the 1950s in America or something like that. I never really read too much into the series. I know I just bought it specifically for the title and also for the premise that it's fairy tale based and it's a fairy tale retelling. So the first book that I have right here is Big Bad Wolf. And now a funny story about this book is that I really wanted a copy of this because hello, Little Red Riding Hood retelling, and I just loved her little red cape and her little red skirt. But Thrift Books ran out of copies and I was just searching the internet for a copy of this book, and I bought a copy off Abe Books, which is another thrift book store in America, and I paid like $15 for a copy of that book. And then I found a cheaper version on Thrift Books, but since I already placed like an order on that, like for Big Bad Wolf on Abe Books, I completely forgot that I bought that one and I ended up purchasing a second copy on Thrift Books. So now I have 2 copies of this book. Long story short, I really like the cover, and apparently I think like some versions do have a step back, but this one I don't have a step back for it. So the next book that I got is this one called One Day My Prince, and this one is a Snow White retelling, and I think it's our male hero who is Snow White. So I think this series is really fun too as well because Linda kind of just switched the roles, like they gender swapped the roles. So it's really funny when I'm reading like this little tidbit on the corner of the cover which says one kiss and Joe White would obey. So here's my second copy of Big Bad Wolf, and this one unfortunately cost $15. Now the next book that I have in the series is called Cinderella, and you can probably tell from the title of the book that it's gender swapped, and our hero is actually Cinderella. You know, he comes from a poor background and then he meets a rich heiress. Then I have this one called Into the Woods. This one is a Hansel and Gretel retelling. I don't know, I'm not really sure because like it does have like gingerbread cookies in here. Yep, it is. It's a Hansel and Gretel retelling, guys. Then the next book in the series that I have is Let Down Your Hair, and this one is obviously a Rapunzel retelling as well. So if you are a viewer of my channel, you guys would probably know that one of my best friends here on BookTube is Jessica from Peace Love Books, and one of her favorite historical romance authors just so happened to be Jennifer Ashley. Now, me and Jessica have differences of opinions on contemporary romances, but for historical romances, we're pretty much always on the same page, like 90% of the time. So I really do trust her opinion a lot when it comes to historical romances, and one of the authors that she really enjoys is actually Jennifer Ashley. Now, a funny story about the stack of books I just bought is that I was bidding on an eBay lot of used Jennifer Ashley novels, specifically in this like Mackenzie series, and the price just kept going higher and higher because people really wanted it, and people in America could afford paying like a higher price for the overall lot, but I personally couldn't because the shipping was just too expensive. So I would always be paying like double the price for a lot of books when American people can just get it for cheaper, since media mail is cheaper in America. So I ended up being really salty and really bitter that I lost a lot, and I did the math and did the number crunching, and I realized that if I bought the new copies from Indigo here in Canada, it will be cheaper and I will get brand new spanking copies. So I ended up picking up the whole series just out of complete spite and bitterness that I lost that lot. So the first book that I got was Lady Isabella's Scandalous Marriage. The next book that I got was Rules for a Proper Governess. The next book that I got was The Wicked Deeds of Daniel Mackenzie. Then I got this one called The Madness of Lord Ian Mackenzie. And then I have right here The Seduction of Elliot McBride, and then The Scandalous Mackenzies, and then I have The Stolen Mackenzie Bride. And this is just all part of the same series, and I collected all the books so that I could just binge the whole series the whole way through. I think like Jessica did a really great job at reading like the series. I think she like read a couple already. I don't know if she actually finished the whole thing, but from what I hear, she really enjoyed it. And from what I also hear from like reviews is that the madness of Lord Ian Mackenzie was really heartbreaking, because our hero was put into a mental asylum when he wasn't really crazy, but he thinks he's crazy too because of what the doctors are telling him. But in reality, he just suffers not like a learning disability, but he just suffers something that is completely treatable nowadays in modern medicine, but back then it was just not discovered. And those are always like the most heartbreaking like stories to read in historical romance, because we know that it's true. Like back then, because there were so many things that were never discovered yet, were never diagnosed, they just automatically lumped it into the pile of mental illness and insanity. Okay, so the next few historical romances that I did get was from this author named Juliet Long. Now, a couple of people on Bookstagram, I forgot who, but they were hosting this like 6-month read along where they read the Pen Royal series, and I was intrigued by it, but I just never kept up with it and I never read the series. But I figured that I would collect the books because after I saw a post from the host, she quoted the book in her post, and it automatically made me want to pick up the series sometime in the new year, or sometime maybe in this year before the year ends. So this is just like completing the series that I already have, because I already have a couple of the books in the series. So the one that I didn't have was The Legend of Leon Redmond, and it's like this really beautiful red dress. And then I have this one called Since the Surrender, and then the last one that I have to complete with the series is It Happened One Midnight, and she's like wearing this beautiful green dress. Okay, so the next lot of historical romances that I did get was like one of the very few orders that I put in on eBay. I've since kind of taken a step back from eBay buying, mostly because I already have a lot of the books that I always wanted, and now I'm just looking for copies of books that are unique and interesting. But I have a lot of eBay books that I never showed you, so it still looks like I'm continuously buying, but I promise you that I haven't bought an eBay lot in a very long time. But anyways, this is just like a lot that came in like probably like a month ago, and I just never showed you guys. This is from Anna Campbell, and I've read some Anna Campbell books before. I enjoyed it, and I saw that she had like a lot that was on sale, so I got it. So this one is called My Reckless Surrender, and it has this beautiful step back. Then I have this one called Untouched, and then it has a great like back cover. And then this is like part of her series from Forever Romance. This is book number 1 in the Sons of Sin series. This one's called 7 Nights in a Rogue's Bed. Now, a quick comment that like we've been talking about in a lot of live show discussions is that Forever Romance is like rediscovering or redesigning their covers for models on historical romance, and which is fine, but like the covers that they're doing right now just seem so stock imagey. But the covers that they did in the early 2000s, now I'm a big fan of, because now we see like photos with actual emotion on it and it's zoomed in on detail. I think this is like the style that they should keep going, because I just absolutely love these covers. Like this one is also really pretty too. This one's called A Scoundrel of Midnight. This is book number something in the Son of Sin series. Then we have this one, which is unfortunately a library copy, but this one's called A Rakes of Midnight's Kiss. And then I have this one right here, which is called What a Duke Did. scares. Speaking of new forever historical romances, I got this one in the mail from, I think, the publisher and also the author. This one is from Erica Ridley, and this one's called The Perks of Loving a Wallflower. And as you can tell, it is an FF historical romance that I'm pretty excited to read because there's not too many traditionally published historical romances that feature like FF romances or MM romances. So I'm excited to pick this one up. I've read Erica before and I always was surprised by how her plots are always so intricate and also so fun. Then I have a copy of Sarah MacLean's Bombshell. I don't know if I hauled this one already, but I know that I picked up this book in a couple months ago, but then I got extra copies, so this is like an extra copy of this book. So far I've seen really poor reviews of Bombshell by Sarah MacLean, so I'm kind of I'm kind of nervous about reading this one, mostly because me and Sarah MacLean don't really get along too well anyways. Then I have a copy of this book from Charisse Michaels. This one's called When You Wish Upon a Duke, and I don't know if I hauled this one too. I got 2 copies of this book. It's unfortunate. I tried to return it and I couldn't return it, but this one is a Tinkerbell fairy tale retelling. And then here's my second copy of The Perks of Loving a Wallflower. So I just have a lot of duplicate copies every time. So more duplicate copies of books that I have. I purchased one book and then I'll get a book from the publisher in the mail, so then I'll have duplicate copies. I'm not just buying random copies. Sometimes I am though. This one is called Mistletoe Christmas, and it's from a bunch of historical romance authors. They're just a bunch of short historical romance Christmas stories. It's from Eloisa James, Christy Caldwell, Jana McGregor, and Erica Ritt. Then I also picked up the latest and greatest from Lindsay Sands, and this is her paranormal romance series from the Arginal series. This one's called Mile High with a Vampire. I picked it up because my friends and I were hosting the paranormal romance readathon, and I thought that I would get to it, but I never got to it yet, so hopefully I'll get to it soon. I have like majority of Lindsay Sands like Argonauts series, like the books, downstairs because I bought it from the used bookstore and it was like on sale, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go buy it all, even though I don't know if I'll like it anyways. So the next book that I have here is a book that was sent to me from Forever Romance. As you can tell, this is the cover. It just looks so stock imagey, so I can't really say I like it, but it's interesting, it's different. So this one's called A Lady's Guide to Mischief and Mayhem by Mandy Collins, and this one was actually like an illustrated cover before. This is the second book in the series, and I like the illustrative cover better instead of this one, but this one just like looks a lot like the Bridgerton remake, so I guess that's why they made it. I don't know. Anyways, this one follows a widow female heroine who is participating in vulgar activities because she is like the editor-in-chief of a newspaper, and then our hero, who is like a detective investigator, is pissed off because she might have interfered with his investigation, and then afterwards she stumbles upon murder, so now he needs to protect her because her life is being threatened. Speaking of the second book in the series, this one is called An Heiress's Guide to Deception and Desire by Mandy Collins. This one was sent to me from the publisher as well. This one involves a second chance romance. Our female heroine is a crime columnist and she wants to like investigate murders and crimes and things like that. I think one of her friends got kidnapped and now she needs to work with her ex-boo, like the person that she like actually really loved and wanted to marry, to go find her friend who has been kidnapped. I was sent a copy of Heartbreaker by Alice Osman, volume number 4. This is a book that I haven't read yet that I'm really excited to read because I just love this graphic novel series so much. If you guys don't know what the series is about, it's basically about 2 young boys who are in high school. One of them discovers their sexuality and then the other one is at peace with their sexuality but is upset that he has to keep things a secret with the person that he likes, but then he starts to have feelings for his best friend kind of thing, like for the school jock. And then this is just like a continuation of their story of how they are developing in their relationship and any other problems that kind of come with discovering yourself and talking about your sexuality in a school setting. And then I have a copy of Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper. I bought a lot of books and I was really pleased and happy with myself because a lot of the audiobooks actually came available in my local library, so I was able to listen to all the audiobooks of the new books that I bought. So I've already read this one and I really enjoyed this one. This one is a FF romance and involves our heroine who is a witch who needs to return back to her small town to like organize and to be the host of this like witch crafting game. And like it reminds me a lot of like Quidditch, because they have like a lot of games that they have to do, and then if you win the game then you like, you know, win the grand prize. I don't know. So she works together with our other female heroine to try to bring down the really snobby witch family, who is deemed to be the best witch family because of their blood and their last name. So the paranormal romance readathon took place this month, and I managed to start book number 1 in this series from Suzanne E. I don't know what book number 1 is called again. Angel Fall. So I picked up book number 2 and book number 3. So I think this one's book number 3 called End of Days, and this one is book number 2 called World After. This series follows the story of angels coming to Earth to destroy Earth and to destroy the human race, or at least to rule over the human race. Our female heroine's just trying to survive. Her little sister gets kidnapped. Now she must work with a fallen angel to go retrieve her younger sister. Then I got a copy of The Holiday Swap by Maggie Knox. I talked about this in my latest Christmas romance review video. This one is about twin sisters who are switching positions. One is a TV personality star, the other one is just a baker in the family bakery, and they both swap like lives, and they both fall in love with 2 different people from 2 different settings in their life. And it's pretty interesting. I didn't really like it, but I'm sure some of you guys will. I'm a huge fan of these like illustrative covers from this artist known as Alice Kaufman, I believe, and she designed a bunch of covers for indie romance authors. This one is called For Vacation Only by Mila Nix, and I bought it because it was on sale. This one involves our hero who has been jilted at the altar, so he decides to go on the honeymoon trip himself. The last person he expects to meet is this really beautiful songstress, and he begins to fall in love with her. So the next book that I have is this one called I Hate You More by Lucy Gilmore. This involves our female heroine who used to be a pageant star, and she gave it up to live a normal life, and then her friend begs her to take her dog to like this like dog competition, and she's just like reluctantly agreeing to go. And then the last person that she expects to fall in love with is the grouchy and serious veterinarian who is our hero. And they have an enemies to lovers romance. So the next book that I have here is another illustrated cover from Alice Kaufman. This one is called A Rake Like You by Becky Michaels. I have book number 1, but I don't have it with me right now. But anyways, oh, I said Alice Kaufman. Her name is Lenny Kaufman. So basically our hero is deprived. He's like really poor, and he needs to marry someone wealthy, and then in walks our heroine who manages her father's estate really well and is really successful. So she's trying to fend him off because he's like really interested in her money, but they end up falling in love anyways. So a Christmas novel that I also picked up is this one from Jenny Bayless. This one's called A Season for Second Chances. It's on my holiday TBR list. It's about a female heroine who has grown adult kids. She's divorced. She decides to move to a small town to live the rest of her days comfortably. There she meets the like developer's son, and then he wants to make these radical changes to the small town, and she's against it. So it's kind of like an enemies to lovers romance set in the holiday season. The next book that I have here is Always in December by Emily Stone. I talked about this in my holiday romance videos already. I read this book. This one is about our female heroine and our hero who meet under weird circumstances. They have a nice, lovely night, but then he leaves abruptly, and she's heartbroken over it. And then over the course of several years, they actually see each other again, and she starts to piece together why he's always leaving abruptly and why he's never wanting to commit to a relationship despite them being perfect for each other. Then I have the latest and greatest from Sophie Kinsella. This one's called The Party Crasher. It's about our female heroine trying to sneak into her family's house while they're having a party that she wasn't invited to, so that she can look for family heirlooms. And I really enjoyed this one. It's like a romantic comedy. It's really lighthearted. It's easy to read, and it's a perfect novel for the Christmas holiday season. Then I have this one called The Holiday Switch by Tiff Marcello. This is a YA middle grade novel about 2 people who work on a film set together on Christmas vacation. They swap phones. There's a snow-in situation. They have to live with each other under the same roof. and it just sounds really fun, and I'm really excited to read this one. I also have this one from Chris Hadfield. It's called The Apollo Murders, and it's a thriller novel taking place in space. I read this one already, and this one involves like a bunch of astronauts going up into space, realizing that one of them cannot be trusted. It's definitely for fans of The Martian by Andy Weir. And then I have this book called Sway With Me by Syed Masood, and this one was sent from the publisher. This one involves our hero who doesn't really have any family members left except for like his grandmother that he really loves, and then his estranged father who is really abusive and not a great person. So he knows that once his grandmother passes away, he's not going to have any family members except for the dad, so he wants to marry someone and to have a family with them. So he turns to the daughter of a prominent matchmaker, and they both work together to find him someone that he can spend the rest of his life with. Then I was sent this thriller novel from St. Martin's Press. This one's called A Flicker in the Dark. It's about this young girl who was living like a perfect childhood life until 6 girls got kidnapped in the small town that she lived in, and then like a few months later her father got arrested for serial killing these 6 girls. Now she has moved past that trauma and that grief, and she has become a psychologist, but then something is happening again, and it might be related to her father. Then I have a copy of 8 Perfect Hours by Leah Lewis. It's about 2 people who are snowed in, and they have 8 perfect hours with each other, but then 8 perfect hours ends and they have to live the rest of their lives separately, and this is them finding each other again and falling in love. It's perfect for the holiday season. I talked about this one in my holiday romance wrap-up. I didn't really like it, but maybe you will. Then I have this one called A Lot Like Adios by Alexis Daria. It's about 2 best friends that kind of broke things off, and then they meet each other again in their adulthood when they have to work together. It turns from enemies to lovers to a friends with benefits to a friends to lovers romance. Then I have the latest novel from Sarah Smith. I don't know how to say her middle name, but she was Sarah Smith, and I guess she got married. But this one is called On Location. This one features our female heroine who is a director, producer of like documentary series. She wants to do one on the national parks. She's really thrilled about the project until she sees her crew member, who just so happens to be the person that she fell in love with, had a one-night stand with, and then he ghosted her. So now things are getting awkward on set. Then I have this YA horror novel called White Smoke by Tiffany D. Jackson. It sounds like it involves a really spooky haunted house, and it's like a retelling of The Haunting of Hill House. So I'm excited to check this one out during the spooky season. Then I have this new up-and-coming release called How to Marry Keanu Reeves in 90 Days by K.M. Jackson. This one involves our female heroine who really likes this celebrity, and she decides to chase a celebrity across the whole country to convince him that he should marry her, and she needs all the help that she can get. So she asks her longtime best friend to come with her on this massive road trip, but her longtime best friend actually has a crush on her for the longest time, and now this one is like kind of like childhood best friends to lovers romance. Then I have the latest from Juliet London. It's called It Starts With a Dog. I really liked You Lucky Dog, so I'm really excited to read this one. This one involves a Christmas holiday romance where 2 people are pitted against each other in a promotion in a coffee shop, and I'm excited to read this enemies to lovers romance. Then I have the latest one from Meg Cabot. This one's called No Words, and involves 2 authors of 2 different genres meeting each other after like a giant fiasco during a writer's retreat on Bridge Island, which is like book number 3 in the series of Bridge Island series. It's like a series, it's like a set of islands in the Florida Keys, I think. And they really hate each other, but then they end up liking each other during the retreat. Then I have this one is a YA novel sent to me from HarperCollins Canada. This one's called Not Here to Be Liked, and I just didn't like this novel. I read it already. This one's from Michelle Kwok. This one involves a female heroine who wants to be the editor-in-chief of her newspaper, but then to her dismay, she gets booted off the spot that she thought she would get, and her high school rival gets it instead. Her high school rival is like a jock, and she's like completely befuddled by the fact that he got it and not her, and she claims that it is sexism. So she rises in the school talking about sexism and being like a very strong feminist, and like, you know, like talking about how society's like pressures on females. And I just didn't like it, but I'll talk more about it in a video if I have to. But this one's a 1-star read for me. And then the last 2 books that I want to talk about in this big haul already is The Shoddy Setup by Lily Val and A Holly Jolly Diwali by Silent Eiley. I really enjoyed these. This one is set in a story about a girl who lost her job, flies to India for a big holiday wedding, learns the meaning of Diwali and learns the meaning of her culture, and like falls in love with it again. And she also falls in love with a musician, but they're kind of like not supposed to be together because he's from India and she's from America, so they have like this long distance relationship consideration that they have to consider. Then we have this one, which involves a second chance at first love. Our female heroine fell in love with her high school sweetheart for the longest time, but they had like a misunderstanding where they had to like break up, and then she dates someone else, and then she thinks that she's perfect for this new person, but then in walks the high school sweetheart, which is our hero, and now she's like completely confused about like what she's gonna do with the rest of her life, because now she has this guy and her new boyfriend, and now she has to decide. But anyways, that is it for all the books I want to show you in this haul. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and added some books to your TBR. There's a global supply chain crisis happening with books, and lots of books are being delayed, and I've actually decided that I'm not going to be buying random books anymore, mostly in part because it's like a lot of money to spend, and also because I don't need them, and if I'm buying random books, I'm putting more pressure on the supply chain. And I know that like people are like saying like if you pre-order books you can get guaranteed the books, but it's not always the case. Book hauls are a little bit fun, but it's just a little bit bad for the supply chain crisis right now. So I don't know, I'm just gonna do some thinking anytime I buy books. The books that I am going to purchase in the upcoming months are going to be pre-orders for 2022, and hopefully by then we would have better control of the supply chain crisis. But anyways, I'll see you guys again next time in a new video. Bye.